This call is now being recorded.
This is just like I'm calling you in jail.
It wouldn't be the first time, would it?
It would not be the first time. How are things in Northeast Ohio? Craig Smylie, the first guest. You haven't been on since the first podcast, right?
Correct, but I'm I listen left and right all the time. It's on my schedule of things to do, and we're at that point in time where I don't blame you. There isn't a whole lot to talk about, but we could be using your podcast daily, let alone weekly, and a little bit less frequently than that in the off season. But things are about to pick up again, whether you believe it or not. Things are okay here. I think everybody's going to be saying the same thing. Things are okay.
Are you? I think I'm excited for the. I'm always excited for the draft. You know that. I like preseason football because I like watching the guys who get drafted. I think there are going to be some things that go really, really wrong with this virtual Zoom, FaceTime, however they're going to do it, draft. There's guys, people, I don't know that we always realize this. I really realized it when Mark Zuckerberg had to go on Capitol Hill. There are some people who are in that, 50s, 60s, not all of them, but some who really don't even know how to use a computer. Bill O'Brien strikes me as a guy who refused to own a computer till probably 2017. And I think there are guys like that who are really going to struggle with this, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, that's to be determined, man, because I think that, just Zoom in general is something that, while it's been around for a little bit, is something that I would be willing to bet that the majority of people didn't even know what the heck it was until they found themselves trapped inside for a month plus, and I definitely, when you go and look at guys, at the collegiate ranks that are playing that, am I allowed to talk to this kid? Am I allowed to talk to my team right now? And I'm talking about college football for a second, all of a sudden Zoom came around and they started realizing, oh my goodness, we're going to have a Zoom meeting every single day, and guys that hadn't, like you said, have no experience with the technology aspect of it, or very little. And it's just like anything else, it's just like a lot of those guys. You think back to, think about Lou Holtz when he first learned how to send a text message, if that's even happened yet,
Yeah.
And it just goes down the list. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I think that there are a lot of people that are going to handle. I think that they've had enough time to make sure that, from a technology standpoint, that they have the right people in place, pressing the right buttons to make sure that those little mistakes don't happen so often. I think come draft time. So I don't know really that you're going to see as many mess ups as you think will happen. But certainly with Bill O'Brien, you never know what to expect.
What was your experience with Bill O'Brien? Wasn't he kind of a jerk to you?
That was one of my. Talk about stories that I could tell 18 times and never get bored of telling it. Bill O'Brien. This was the year that Joe Paterno passed away, and Bill O'Brien was hired as the first head coach following. It was what's his name, Tom Bradley, that was hired as the interim. And then, after that season ended, Joe Pa dies, and they hire, I just blanked out of the guy.
Well, Tom Bradley was the interim, and then it was Bill O'Brien.
Sure, yeah. So they hire Bill O'Brien, and, Penn State does, just like all of those, especially the baseball teams, do those caravans. Where they just
traveling around saying hi, making friends.
Sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they send Bill O'Brien out to a bunch of the Penn State branch campuses, which, for the most part are located in, tiny, tiny towns throughout the state of Pennsylvania. One of them happens to be in Erie, which is where you and I met, and life has never been the same. And both worked for the TV station, ABC and Fox TV station there, and that's also where a branch campus in Division III school of Penn State is. They don't have a football team, but Bill O'Brien came there to kind of talk to, some of the people that are going to donate money, some of the kids that, may go on to be people who donate money, et cetera, et cetera. That's the point with all of these things. So Bill O'Brien shows up, and it was like a last-minute thing that they decided that they were going to have this media availability with him, and we were going to do like a mini press conference or something like that. And I had a dentist appointment scheduled. So I call the guys at Penn State Barron, and I said, listen, I'll be there, but it's going to be like in between when your press conference is scheduled and when he's going to meet with whoever he was going to meet with. I'm like, can I just grab him real quick then? Sure, why not? Whatever, they make no. And this is now the people that I'm talking to are the Penn State main campus people, in addition to the Barron people. So it wasn't just I wasn't going around people. But anyway, long story short, I get there, and Bill O'Brien's waiting for me, and I walk up and I introduce myself. Hey, I'm Craig Smylie from Jet TV, and he says to me, I'll bet you $5 I know every question you're going to ask.
There was an extra word he put in there, right?
Yes. Yeah. He did use the
Billy O
F-word.
dropped an F-bomb, yeah.
Yeah, he
nice
did.
guy.
No, it was, not even a little nice. Not even a hello. Like, that was his response to, hi, nice to meet you, I'm so-and-so, was I know every effing question. I'll bet you $5 I know every effing question you're going to ask. And I was so taken aback by it that I said to him, as fast as I could on my feet, and this was probably, I'd have to look at what the year was, but it was when the original Avengers movie was out, and like everybody on planet Earth was seeing the Avengers.
Yeah, it's like 2012.
Yeah. So it was 2012. The Avengers came out. Everybody had seen it. And so just as soon as he says that to me, I'll bet you $5 that I know every effing question you're going to ask. I respond with, what'd you think of the Avengers? And he goes, oh, that's a good one, man. That's a good one. I owe you $5. Reaches in his pocket, gets his wallet out, and starts to pull out his money, and I just immediately respond with, keep it, Bill. I've got some years of eligibility left. He he starts to open up right there and then. He said something about, make sure you ask Jeff Nelson, who was the longtime SID at Penn State, about the Avengers. And I'm like, I hadn't even seen the Avengers. Well, I just knew that was the thing that everybody was talking about. I mean, I guess if I met him this time, I would be like, so what do you think of COVID-19? Or what was your reaction to Kobe dying? I don't know what I would say to him now, but at that point in time, that's what opened him up. We BS back and forth for a minute, and then I said to him, I go, so Coach, this is the question that you said that everybody would ask you and that you were accusing me of at the beginning. What's it going to be like to replace a legend? And, and he was much more normal at that point in time. But and I've had some interactions with some great A-holes, but I've never been in a situation where somebody has just not even gone to the length of, hi, nice to meet you, ever. I mean, I've got nothing, and that was the response. So, when I think again, that was before Bill O'Brien was, he hadn't even called a play yet at Penn State. He was just that dude, and that was the first impression. Whereas, my impression and my interaction with James Franklin couldn't have been better. Nicest guy I've met. One of them. And it's just night and day. But yeah, Bill O'Brien, strange dude. And I would imagine that he has since seen the Avengers, would be my guess.
I don't know. I haven't seen the Avengers.
Yeah, you know what?
I've heard great things, but
yeah, I've seen bits and pieces. But to be honest with you, I have not seen the whole thing either. The original.
Okay, moving on from Bill O'Brien, who clearly needs a hug. I used to, probably before I knew you, I would do mock drafts, and I was pretty good at them. But now, since they have, so the rookie, for people who maybe don't remember, the rookie wage scale, which I think came in 2009, really changed it, because before that, if you wanted the number 1 overall pick, you had to pay a ton of money. I think like when Sam Bradford was drafted number 1 overall, I think he became like the 3rd highest paid quarterback in the league before ever taking a snap. Now they have the rookie wage scale, and Patrick Mahomes is the 23rd highest paid quarterback in the league, or whatever. I'm sure he's higher than that. Whatever. He's not top 10, right? Despite being clearly the best guy in the league. So there's so many trades now, which there actually wasn't last year, but last year was kind of a different year. But I don't do the mock drafts anymore, but I put a top 5 together this year. You want it? So I think clearly Joe Burrow, number 1. Number 2, Chase Young. No big surprises there. I think there's been enough smoke over the last 7, 8, 9, 10 days that the Dolphins won't go with Tua Tagovailoa, that they're going with him and they're trading up to get him. I think they're going to trade up to 3 to get him. The Giants are at 4, don't care who they take, and I think the Lions get Jeff Okudah at 5, and then that's where it gets fun, because then you have the Chargers at 6. If they pass on Justin Herbert, the whole thing gets turned upside down. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you're far off. I think that a lot of those guys that you named, I think Burrow and Chase Young, and I think that the Tua pick is something that that could be interesting, because I think that in that 3 spot, I think that you'll either see somebody trade up to go get him, or I think you'll see somebody that's going to pick. We always see those reach picks for either somebody like Okudah or the lineman from Iowa, Tristan Wirfs. I think would be a stretch at 3, but I think you'll see somebody in that range where they may take just a more I'd just say a more sure position. And then that's where things will get interesting. I'm not positive that Tua goes 3, but I think that the more you look at it, that's what people are saying. And I don't think that you're far off. I could totally see it happening, but I could also see a lineman or as you mentioned the DB from Ohio State going 3. That'd be pretty wild if you had 3 guys that all spent time in Columbus going 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, and I think that's possible, but I guess for the longest time it was kind of like, all right, there's going to be a little bit of a bidding war to see if anyone can get up to that 3 spot to get Tua, and now it's cooled off so much over the past week that I feel like the Dolphins are putting that information out there to maybe get people to back off from that idea, and then the Chargers hope that he falls to them. Meanwhile, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying? I think those are the 2 teams that I would keep an eye on, no question about it. And I think that Miami wants them for sure. And I think it's just a matter of if the price is right for what's that. Because who's got 3? Detroit's got 3, right? Detroit, yes.
Yeah. So does Detroit trade down for somebody that's getting it there, or is somebody going to try to? I mean, I think if he falls, I think the Giants are in a position, same deal, where you start to look at what they've got to work at. I would imagine if one of those guys, whether it's Tua or Herbert, falls to 4, you're going to see somebody. You're going to see the Giants probably either take them there or trade down.
But the Giants just got Daniel Jones.
Yeah, but I think that you're right. But I think again, what are we seeing as far as has he proven? Is he proven to be the guy that they want? And I'm still not sold on that. It's possible, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Tua fell to 4 if the Giants said, screw it, we're taking him here. I honestly wouldn't. I think that Daniel Jones is somebody that, has potential. And I think that there are a lot bigger pieces for the Giants puzzle than replacing a quarterback as opposed to other people. But I think you'll see. I think that it's quite the possibility that we don't see, that we see some other position go there at 3.
That would be why that would turn things absolutely upside down if the Giants. I'm rooting for that now, for the Giants to go there just to really make things go insane. And I've seen mock drafts now. Maurice Jones-Drew, who I like on TV, but I think is just kind of looking for some attention, and it's working. He's getting it, but he had the Bengals going Justin Herbert at number 1 overall, and I think they do like him. They just like Burrow better. And then I've seen Joel Klatt came out with his mock draft, and he doesn't even have Justin Herbert being selected in the first round. So maybe it's because there's nothing else going on, but I think it is the most, outside of the top 2, which I think we know what those will be, it's the most exciting draft I can remember for a while. And people forget, when the Browns took your boy Baker Mayfield, happy 25th to Baker, by the way, when the Browns took Baker Mayfield, 2 years ago? 48 hours before the draft, now maybe not that, 72 hours before the draft, no one knew that was going to happen. It was considered a possibility, but it was definitely a surprise. Most people thought they would go with Sam Darnold.
They had him taking everybody. Josh Allen was the guy for a while. Darnold was the guy for a while. You could just go down the list. It's a strange group of guys. When you start to look down, just look at some of the names that are just at the top of the quote-unquote boards. And I see a lot of linemen, in the first round. And the one, if you're talking, for me, again, being here in Cleveland, outside of the guys that I'm familiar with being the Ohio State guys, Tua obviously just got a lot of college attention, as did Herbert. But for the Browns specifically, it would be a stunning move if they didn't take a lineman. There is a lot of talk about them trading up to try to get Tristan Wirfs, the offensive tackle from Iowa, who again, it's like you just don't know what you're getting with these guys. You don't know when you're drafting an offensive line. Joe Thomas they drafted, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer. But for the most part, you don't know what you're getting with a guy like the kid from Alabama, Wills from Alabama. Jedrick Wills.
Great first name.
Yeah, terrific first name. They've got around those same numbers there. 6'5", 320. Andrew Thomas from Georgia. Like, who knows whether these guys translate well to the NFL or not? And the hot pick is Isaiah Simmons is the one that everybody's talking about. That's who the general public wants to see. Every team in this league, that's got a pick, in the middle of that first round is looking to move up and take this Isaiah Simmons from Clemson, who can play. They think he could play linebacker, can play defensive back, and he's somebody I would not be surprised if somebody jumps into that top 10 to try to grab just as an overall athlete.
Well, I've seen a lot of people on Isaiah Simmons. A lot of people have him going to the Giants. B, the interesting thing about that is linebacker safety, kind of a dual thing. Isn't that how Jabril Peppers was kind of seen, as a guy who can play every position outside of defensive line? And we've seen that's not the best. And then C, when you think about Jedrick, I didn't really think about it till right now. It's like a combination of the names Jed and Rick.
You're not wrong, Walter. That's phenomenal. Jed and Rick. Yeah, it is.
Like, you have names like that, like Billy Bob's the famous one, any Bobby Ray, there's a lot of two-name people, Billy Joe, but I mean, Jed and Rick, you don't see that one too often because that's a compound name.
That is the definition of a compound name. Yes, you totally threw me there. Going back to your comparison though with Isaiah Simmons and Jabril Peppers, I love it. I love the comparison because I honestly, that's exactly what I was thinking. The more that people talk about this kid, but the size difference. This is a kid that's 6'4", 230, and seems like he's built for that. As if I'll try to get you the Jabril Peppers. What he's listed at, but it ain't even close.
Isaiah Simmons is a linebacker who could play safety, while Jabril Peppers is a safety who maybe could have fit in as a 3-4 linebacker, but that was kind of what people thought about Jabril Peppers, I felt like, coming out of Michigan, was, he's naturally a safety, but he can play, 6 positions on defense, and while he's not necessarily bad, he's certainly not looking like a first-round pick. Clearly, the Browns already got rid of him and got OBJ in return as part of a package, so... Yeah,
5'11", 215. But yeah, he looked okay with the Giants. But I mean, again, it just didn't belong where where he was drafted, and he was never going to belong where he was drafted. And just because that role, I mean, it takes a special guy, to be able to stand out, at a strong safety position, and it's one of those things where. The best of the best of the best are, 2 dudes. And then after that, everybody's kind of falls in the middle.
And I'll give you one more comparison on that just popped in, then we'll move on. But Mark Barron, who was drafted as a safety out of Alabama, was a little bit of a safety in Tampa, then became a linebacker with the Rams and the Steelers. But those guys, maybe they'll work out. But for the most part, those guys who... If you don't have one spot, you don't have any spots. Moving on, let's talk about Joe Burrow, of course, from Athens County, Ohio. If you are one of the rare people who is a big football fan, but like myself, I think, given our background in journalism and reporting, can look at things and not be like, oh, it's my team, bro. So do you think if you were a Cincinnati Bengals fan, although you're not, would you want the Bengals to draft him, or would you want those potential 4 first-round picks from Miami, which would be 5, 18, and 26 this year, and then whatever they have next year? Not that that's necessarily been offered, but that's kind of been the idea, is that's where the Bengals would maybe start listening. I don't think that happens. I don't think the Bengals have any interest. I don't want them to. I think they would be stupid to anytime you have a chance to get that level quarterback who grew up 2 hours away and can potentially swing an entire region of the state into your fan base. I think you have to take the shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you that you have to take the shot. Personally, I'm not sold that he is the second coming, and I'm not sold that he is going to be, everything that they hope for, just because the sample size is just so small. And I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, he had one really, really, really good season at LSU with a lot of talent around him. And again, that's not to put Joe Burrow down at all. It's just the fact, and he could turn out to be incredible. Is it worth taking the chance? Yeah. As silly as it sounds, I think the fact that he does have the southeastern Ohio tie, he has the Ohio State tie, that makes it would make it that much more difficult for the Bengals to pass and go in a different direction.
I just think that, it would be the equivalent of, the Cavs in 2003, and this is such a stretch. But, again, just not knowing how LeBron was going to translate to the NBA and saying, yeah, but let's take the Ricky Williams trade and get a bunch of draft picks. It wasn't going to happen. He was the hometown guy, and he was the king. And I think that Burrow, he's shown a lot of talent, but the NFL is it's a different game. Certain skill sets work, certain skill sets don't. Certain guys, you look at, what's his name with Tennessee that was playing for Oregon, Mariota.
Marcus Mariota.
Who you just knew was going to be everything, and then now he's, you've said it over and over again. How many guys, you just start to look at some of those quarterback names that have gone a 1 or 2 and are just nowhere now, or they're mediocre, or they might be a backup, and it's...
Well, there's 2 of them out there right now who are free agents, and Cam Newton and Jameis Winston.
Right, and guys that, would be serviceable on, numerous teams. But it also depends on where you play. It depends on where you go. It's the difference in being,
again, whether you're drafted by Miami and then you end up in Tennessee, and that, it makes all the difference in the world, at that specific year. And there's no saying that, Joe Burrow isn't the guy. I hope for the Bengals' sake that they draft him and he's successful in Cincinnati. But you and I both have just seen how many times that happens. Being a Browns fan and just watching, I was not a Baker Mayfield guy when they drafted him. And I'm still not a humongous fan, but I'm not a moron either. And I know that the guy coaching was the problem a year ago. And I know that he has, I would hope he's going to be put in a situation where he has a lot higher chance for success this year. And with Burrow, it's the same thing. You said it 100 times. If they don't have a line around him, it doesn't matter, if he's got the speed of Deion Sanders and the arm of Brett Favre. It's not going to work unless they put the pieces around him. I do think that, if they've got a healthy AJ Green, and I like the Mixon and guys like that they've got.
They have great weapons. Great weapons.
Yeah, they need it. I guess I cannot possibly see them passing on him, but it's less about what he's proven, less about what I think of Joe Burrow's potential, and more on the fact that it's just, you don't want to be that team that didn't, give him the shot.
Yes, and just real quick, I pulled it up here. Since 2007, your number 1 quarterbacks selected number 1 overall. Jamarcus Russell, no good. Matt Stafford never won a playoff game. Sam Bradford, pretty good. By the way, he was 2010. I said 2008 earlier, so that's when. So 2011, Cam Newton, number 1. That's when that rookie wage scale picked up. And then, Andrew Luck, you look right there alone. Sam Bradford, 10. Cam Newton, 11. Andrew Luck, 12. Injuries kind of crushed all 3 of those guys.
And then you go
why
on,
do you think that? Why do you think that is? Continue.
Just quarterbacks alone, 2015, Jameis Winston, free agent now. 2016, Jared Goff. I think him and Jameis aren't too far apart. Both are decent, but neither are, what if you put Jameis in Sean McVay's offense? Is he better than Goff? And we talk about the situation you go into. Isn't it amazing? And that's another thing I've said a million times over and over. Those quarterbacks selected high by teams and franchises that typically are trash, well, no wonder they end up burning out. The Browns in particular, people love to go back to that example of well, the Browns could have drafted Ben Roethlisberger. Yeah, you could have, and then he would have went 6-18 in his first 24 starts, and you guys would have cut him, and he would be drinking Busch Light on his couch in Lima, Ohio right now, rather than heading to Canton in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, that's what amazes me, though. You know, and that's what's so cool about the NFL. You don't know. You don't know what the difference is between a guy like Matt Stafford and Matt Ryan. You know, you really don't. And you don't know what the difference is between, you know, it's hard to say, but like think about a guy like Russell Wilson. Like, move him somewhere else. You know, even some of these guys that were the best of the best, Drew Brees, you know,
Second rounder.
Right, but was good. Was good in, where was he? He was with the Chargers.
Purdue.
And then he ends up,
yeah.
He was with the Chargers, and then he ends up in New Orleans. And that was the second coming of Drew Brees. You know, and you go down the list, and the Roethlisberger situation, there's no way that he turns the Browns around. Or does he? You know, we don't know.
People forget so much with Roethlisberger. His first 3 years, I mean, I don't know if he ever threw more than 20 passes on a game. They had the number one defense, top 5 running game with Jerome Bettis and Willie Parker. When you've got the guys to let things develop, it's amazing what happens when you don't put everything on their shoulders right out of the gate.
He was he played in 14 games, started 13, and he was 13.
Big Ben?
He was 13-0. Yeah, 13-0.
Oh,
as a rookie, Roethlisberger. Yeah, and he threw for 2,600 yards in 13 games, 17 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, and was sacked 30 times.
Yeah, he was, and I think they were 15-1 that year, ended up being the number 1 seed. I want to say, let's see, that would have been Super Bowl 39, I do believe. The Patriots, I want to say, won that? No, they wouldn't have won that. That would have been, it doesn't matter. That was 2004. Yeah, that was the Patriots then. Yeah. I think the Steelers lost to the Colts, though. I could be wrong. At any rate, yeah. So you got to get, and that brings me to what the Bengals do in the second round. They've got a lot of options, but if they don't go offensive line, I will set some stuff on fire, and maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's just been so many people out there wondering if the Bengals go wide receiver in round 2. I don't get that. That's maybe, and people are like, well, A.J. Green's on the franchise tag. Yeah, of course he is, but, you know, maybe you try to protect the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, between A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, and John Ross hasn't been great, but he's a very solid number 3. If they don't go offensive line or linebacker in round 2, I mean, Bengals fans will riot.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. That would be.
That's the thing. You've got to get guys to protect Joe Burrow, or the whole thing is going to. I mean, look at guys like David Carr, who just got Tim Couch. I mean, guys like that who just got beat up and never had the chance to develop. So we'll see. NFL draft is next Thursday. Do you think? Here's my thing that I'm really thinking more and more. And I don't know how much you've thought about this. We don't pre-produce this or anything. I'm not sure we're going to have a normal football season if we have a football season.
Yeah. My brain is at a very biased place right now simply because I'm supposed to get married in June. So.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And that alone, it doesn't allow me to answer that question in a normal way because I refuse to let myself look at it with any sort of negativity. But yes, I'll you know what, we'll put it on these terms because, I'm using the same mindset when it comes to, you know, my personal life as I would as a football fan or as somebody who was trying to keep it, you know, objective in any way, shape, or form. I would just say that if we've come that far and we've come to, like, let's say that we've come to August and you and I are still sitting here on the phone, you know, and
can't see each other and can't, go out and get a drink or anything along those lines because every restaurant and bar is open for, curbside pickup only because of all of the stuff that's going on. I just can't see that's what's happening. I can't see August comes around and we're still sitting here. Like, I just will not let my mind go that route because I think, like, this last month has been like the longest on planet Earth. And when you think about it, it's been 4 weeks, or whatever it's been. And that's not that much time. And I feel like so much has happened with, even though we're sitting here, everything else around us it just continues to move. And I just can't see that, August comes around and we're still sitting here going, well, nothing's changed. I just don't see that happening. I just think that something has to happen. Some things have to get better. And I'm on the positive outlook of it. I'm somebody that says, you know what, like things are going to get better. They're going to figure this out, and there's going to be a football season. I don't think that there has to be, necessarily as much preparation to it as, to be healthy and ready and in shape. Don't get me wrong. Like, these teams need to get together. They need to, figure out, what kind of plays they're running, et cetera, and be in physical shape and in professional football shape. But a lot of these guys, they skip OTAs anyway. They skip this and that and the other thing. And now we've got, there's Zoom. So now we've got Zoom meetings. Oh, now here's your playbook. Now we're, it's not like these guys aren't working out on their own. Most of these guys are doing whatever it is. If it's Apollo Creed, if it's Rocky, if it's somebody who's cutting down limbs of trees or lifting 1,000 pounds
trees
of snow.
last week.
Yeah, whatever it may be. They're doing something to get ready. So the idea that we need all this extra time to be ready, I think is asinine.
I'll say that
in the same breath, I think that I just cannot imagine August comes around, because I would say August is, if August is sitting here and we're still doing this, then we're talking about delaying things.
Well, I know college football has already discussed the possibility, and they've laid out a bunch of different plans, but they have discussed the possibility of having more of a spring season where the season would actually start in February. And I think that is more of a possibility, because it's not that I just think we're going to get to a point where anything, again, it's with the non-essential stuff. If we don't have to, as a society, pack 50,000, 60,000 people into Cleveland Browns Stadium on a Sunday, I don't think, how many people are going to want to risk that, And even more, if you go to those games and you take, your grandpa and he gets sick and ends up dying from this thing, then do you have a lawsuit? Were NFL teams negligent? I just think there's too many things that go into it, and if we don't have a vaccine where you can't go to the hospital and get this thing taken care of, I think if it's any bit of a concern and they have the option to delay it into the spring, I think it'll happen.
Yeah, I get all of those if this and if that, and if we don't. I'm just saying, I just cannot fathom that it comes to that. I just can't, and I would rather see. Not would rather. I want everybody to be healthy. I want everybody to be safe. That's first and foremost on the list. That said, I just think that, without sounding egotistical or anything like that, I just think that with all of the smart people out there and all of the rich people out there, figure it out and get it to the point where it doesn't have to be, what's the difference between where we were in December and where we are in March? Like the fact that this virus has spread so wide and so quick, is mind-boggling. So figure out a way to make it so that it's gone, so that it goes away, like the ones before it did. Like SARS and like Ebola and things that didn't get here, but they came and they went, to where they were. And again, and I'm ignorant to it because you don't realize, a lot of times what some of these other countries have gone through until it happens to you. And that's the situation here where we're all sitting here going, well, what do we do? How do we get this thing out of here? And how do we, move on with life and be able to, not think about what we're going to do if we have to, why we have to wear a mask when we go to the grocery store and why it's an issue if we go, pack 50,000 people into a seat, into a stadium. But at the same point in time, so if they've got to go and play these games in front of nobody, then play them in front of nobody. I get it's big business, understandable, but people are still going to watch it, and for as much as the ticket revenue comes in, it's way more than that. I mean, the money that comes out of the TV and radio and just endorsements in general way outdoes anything that you're going to get by putting 100,000 people, in the horseshoe, or putting, 60,000 people or whatever it is in Paul Brown Stadium or any of those places for a game. It's mind-boggling for me to think that August comes around and we're still sitting here, and that we even have to worry about, these college football programs saying, well, let's play them in February instead because they can't figure out how to, get a flu shot, a nasty, deadly flu shot. It's just mind-boggling to me that we would still be sitting here in August after all this, and nobody's got an answer to it. It would be absolutely crazy.
Well, it's to my knowledge, and we won't talk about this too much because we're not scientists, we're bros. But I think the issue is if let's say they have a vaccine today, but they give it to you, it cures you, but then 6-8 months from now, your legs melt off. I think that's the issue. They have to go through these trials, and again, lawsuits, issues. I don't know. We'll see, but I don't know. It's wild that we're even discussing the possibility in April that there will not potentially be football. You know what I would love to see is they've talked about in college doing conference-only games if they have to do a shortened season. What's Notre Dame going to do? Join a conference, losers, and then you won't have this issue, will ya?
Yeah, it's just mind-boggling to me that we have to talk about it, and you're not wrong to. You're right to. Everybody's right. It's better. It's the exact thing that makes it so that when you hear somebody say, well, if we just prepared for this in whenever this month, then we wouldn't be here. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. But you're right. Your thought of listening to what college football is doing and just already having some sort of B plan or plan B in the English language, that's the right way to go about it. They're doing the right thing, which is to have some sort of alternative, an alternate. But at the same time, it's very hard for somebody like me to sit here and go, damn, I'm supposed to get married in June, and I want this thing to be gone, in a month. And it's and for these football programs that are looking down the road and saying, well, maybe September comes around and we're not playing. And I'm just going, how on earth is that humanly possible? Like, how are we still sitting here in September going, nope, can't do it. Still can't go hang out with, 50,000 people outside in the, 60-degree weather. You could die. it's just so mind-boggling to me that we're at that point in this world where, like, you have to look at it that way. You have to look at it that way and say, you know, stay safe, stay inside, stay healthy, and, you know, not just for you, but like you said, for grandpa, for, you know, somebody else's grandpa, for somebody else's grandma, for, you know, Aunt Sue, whoever it is, for the kid that's got, you know, this autoimmune disease. You have to be safe for that person. And, you know, you're not wrong. They're not wrong to be looking at those alternatives. I just hope to God that we're not talking about that. I hope in a month they say, you know what? Look, nobody's dying anymore, at least not from this. And the world can start up again, and you guys can not be afraid to, you know, catch this at any moment in time, or, you know, or your family or whatever. So, it's just scary. And, it's crazy. It's got us sitting here talking about things that, you know, you day one of 2020, all of a sudden, you know, again, Kobe dies. You think that's the craziest thing that's going to happen in a year, and little did you know. You know, little did you know that here we are, and the world shut down.
Yes, it is very much shut down. We'll see what happens. I mean, you know, it's all we can do is kind of hang out. I've been enjoying the old games more than I thought. One other hot topic recently has been the uniforms. Now, you were telling me yesterday the Browns' new uniforms come out on Wednesday, April 15th, formerly known as Tax Day, but no one pays taxes anymore because civilization as we know it is over. What do you think about, you don't care about uniforms. I've become kind of a uniform nerd.
Yeah, I know you have. And again, for me, man, you know, it's like, I think for me, like, the draft has been like the big thing for me for the last God knows how long, because the Browns have been so bad, and I'm always just like, well, let's see what happens, and then after that, it's just crap.
Let's see whose life we're going to ruin over the next 3 years in Cleveland.
Pretty much. So, like, with the uniforms, I don't know. I think, like, back in the day when I was like a huge video game player, and I was never really a huge video game player, but I was much more of when I was a, you know, middle school, junior high, even high school kid. Like, I think that I was more into it then, because, you know, then you're popping the game on and you're seeing like what they look like, you know, in your PlayStation or Sega Genesis or whatever the heck the game systems were back then. But now it's like, do I really care what they're wearing? Like, really at all? No, personally I don't. And half the time, I'm not gonna lie to you, man, I don't even notice. You know, like you and I were talking about like for baseball, and like you're like, man, I hate the grays. And I was trying to like give you some sort of response, like you know, being an Indians fan. I'm like, do I really care if they're wearing the navy blue or they're wearing red or they're wearing, you know, white? I don't care. You know, it goes for me. It's like when my fiance says, she's like, you know, we're doing wedding planning stuff. She's like, what do you think of this? And I say to her, listen, I love you, but if I hate something, I'll tell you that I hate it. If I don't tell you that I hate it, then it's probably just somewhere in the middle, or I really like it. I don't really, you know, it's like I'm not somebody who looks at a jersey or, you know, a freaking bouquet of flowers and says, man, I really love that, and that's the one that I want. Versus if it looks like garbage, then I'll tell you that it looks like garbage. But I never claimed to be a fashion major.
No, you are not. You know what's funny about the uniform thing is that at some point in time, and I have Twitter pulled up here on my computer as well, and they're showing the old Browns uniforms, but at some point in time, like back in the 1800s or early 1900s, whatever it was, there was someone, all these manly dudes, and in the beginning, you had to be a manly dude playing football. You weren't, you know, writing poetry and stuff on the side and posting it on Instagram. But at some point in time, one of those dudes had to say to the other, hey, fellas, what if we all matched while we were out here doing this? Wouldn't that be fun?
You're right.
And they did it. And now we love it.
That's got to be there's got to be a history question that goes in there as far as the start of the uniform.
Who was the first guy to be like, good win today, fellas. What do you say next week we all wear orange? Wouldn't that be nice?
Everyone wear orange next week. Like, what? And I mean, it clearly goes back to, you know, the armed forces and, you know, just the military. It has to. But the idea that I would be very interested to go back and read some of that as far as, like, you know, you're differentiating, you know, it's not shirts and skins. You know, just differentiating between teams and how they came up with those ideas and then, you know, where that came from. I'd be very interested to go back and read that. But yeah, you're right. Some guy just said, hey, Johnny and Cousin Ed, we're going to wear orange today. What? You don't have any orange? Well, you can't be on our team.
I'll have Susan sew you a sweater this weekend. And
yes, the orange threads.
Back in the day, that's what the Reds were. They wore red socks, so they were like, well, I guess we're the Reds because that's our color. The Browns were named after Paul Brown, of course. I feel like the White Sox had to be named, and the Red Sox, I guess.
Would all
pale
come
hose.
after
The pale hose.
Is that what? That's what the Reds originally were. I should know that. I've got a Reds hat that I got at the spring training game. I was at feels like 14 years ago. I guess it was about 6 weeks ago. But it's got the original.
It could have been February.
It's got the original C on it. And I think they were the Red Stockings, the first ever baseball team. God, that's wild that I went to a baseball game this year. Feels like quite a long time ago, but here we are. Might be the last sporting event I attend for quite some time. Who knows?
Stop it. Say good thing. Positive thinking.
Yeah, that's
positive thinking.
Has positive thinking ever worked for anyone?
Oh, goodness. Not as a Cleveland fan, it hasn't, except in 2016 for a hot minute.
Yeah, for a hot minute. That was a hot one indeed. Anything else? I've gone through everything on my mind. What else do we want to talk about? We've done.
The fact that we've talked for 45 minutes when there's not a single sport being played other than the WWE locked in some room in Orlando, Florida, where they are magically allowed to do their thing, and some virtual car racers.
With hot
what
microphones.
does it come to?
You saw Kyle Larson, right? I assume you saw what happened there?
No. What happened? No, I didn't watch it. What happened?
Me neither, but I watched Twitter. He was on there, and I've heard his name before. He's not like a huge racer, but there's only like 40 of those guys. But he said the one racial word that is the worst one, I would say.
For what reason?
I believe the context of it was he was saying to someone, he said, "Can you hear me?" He didn't hear anyone back, and he said, "Hey," and then said the word, and now he appears to be out of a job.
You gotta be kidding me.
Amazing to me. I mean, how... I don't know. I mean, look, how do you get to that level of success? You got to be at least smart to some degree to get to that level of success and still have that word in your vocabulary. And then B, to know that you're on a live stream and you're famous and still just kind of forget that you're throwing out that word.
I've said, trust me, I've got as much of a potty mouth as anyone.
Right, but you don't say hateful things.
No. Well, no.
I just want to make sure that it's clear to people who don't know you. You might drop.
Yeah. I would definitely. There's never a time in my life where I would just yell that out for any any reason. But there are other things again, being a kid that just grew up and said things when you're. Think about it when you're in middle school and your high school, even when you're in your college, and you just say stupid things, and you say, there's a word that there was a football player out there that got in huge trouble for using a word for a handicapped person, which.
Oh yeah, Janoris Jenkins, yeah.
Yeah, and I've said that word before without even thinking about it, growing up. And like, you just get to a point where you know your audience, you know what's allowed and what's not, and whether or not that's something that slips out of your mouth, that's one thing, but like when you're starting to use when you're on a hot microphone and you're using racial slurs, I mean that's just another one of those things that it's not even something that it just comes out of your mouth. Like, you're aware that you're saying it. Like if I would still go and use that word, that I might have used as again, as a middle school kid, as a high school kid, as a college kid, whatever, before I had to worry about being fired from a job left or right, or, knew the difference between what's right or what's wrong and who's offending or who's being offended by what, you know when you're saying something, and you definitely know when you're saying something when you're, driving a car and you're making, a heck of a lot of money and you've got a lot to lose every single time you.
Tell you what, man, guy's named Kyle.
Guy's named Kyle.
All right. Yes, you did one time say a word on television that you're not allowed to say. Very PG, maybe PG-13 word. We'll talk about that next time. How's that sound?
Yeah. Okay, sounds great.
You got a lot of radio play out of that. From what I was told, I guess I wasn't there at the time, but I was made well aware. Okay. Anything else? Where you got anything you want to plug? Are you like selling baked goods on Etsy or anything like that?
No, I might as well be selling baked goods on Etsy. No.
You said that with such disdain in your voice.
No, nothing to plug. I've been doing the virtual. You don't check out Facebook, so you're SOL. But the virtual band with some of my buddies, we've been doing the.
Oh, well, you tweet those.
Yeah, I do tweet them. So that was fun. We all sing and play instruments in a different part of the the Midwest, or one's in DC, a couple of us are in Ohio, and edited it all together. So that was fun. Had my favorite band in the whole world is Sister Hazel, and they watched our video and had some good comments on it. So we had a couple of those videos that got lots and lots of hits, as far as what more than my sportscasts that end up on yourerie.com would get, but so that was probably the most entertaining thing that I've done, other than spending time with the little munchkins, my kids and my fiance, and trying to make sure that this thing gets the heck out of the United States and the world, for that matter, by the middle of June. Would be great if you could make that happen.
Thanks for having me on Twitter.
I love having you on. You're on Twitter at Craig Smylie. That's Smylie. You can be his 3,154th follower. If you log on there, you can see. How about Ryan Vaughn's cat in the back of his background? That was pretty good, huh?
That's Ryan Vaughn's the one that tweeted it. That's my best friend in the whole world. That's Dan Martin.
Right.
He's also
okay.
in the so Dan's also in that virtual band that we were playing with, but he's a morning news anchor in Youngstown. And Duke the cat, who was in the back of the shot licking himself on the
And I mean, you want to talk about licking himself. It is about as inappropriate as a cat could get.
That's a nice way of putting it. There are people that pay subscriptions for things like that, and yeah, he ended up. Here's the best part. He ends up on John Oliver's show, and Dan sends me the link to the video, and I said to him, I go, that's pretty cool. This whatever English guy or whatever he is. I'm like, this John Oliver guy picked it up, and I'm like, man, imagine if somebody famous picked it up. And he goes, are you messing with me? So I go to Twitter. I'm like, this guy's got 5.3 million followers. I had no idea who John Oliver was.
Oh, really?
Swear to God. Nope, not a clue who John Oliver was. And now I know.
but I had no idea at the time. I'm like, oh yeah. It's like the guy, it's like the fifth member of the eighth member of Def Leppard tweeted your, put your video on some TV show. And no, this is a guy that's, what is he? It wasn't the Daily Show. He was on the Daily Show, right?
Well, John Oliver has his own show on HBO.
Yeah, but before that, he was one of what? Jon Stewart's guys on the Daily Show.
I'm not into the political comedy shows.
Yeah, I think that's where it came from, but I had no idea. Yeah, no clue.
In the Tiger King, Joe Exotic also got his first national attention on John Oliver, if you remember from the documentary.
It must just be that. It must be John Oliver's the place to be. If you've made it on John Oliver's show, then you've made it. I didn't realize that until this week.
Well, now you know. All right, I'm going to cut this off because we got an hour to edit here, and I've never edited a phoner before. I think the audio of this is going to be good. It's the Good Old Football what's it called, Craig?
The Good Old Football Podcast. Hey, thanks for having me, Matthew Jeremiah Edwards. I appreciate it. Thanks to all the listeners, and I'll see you in 6 months when Matt asks me to do this again.
Could be less than that. At the current rate, I'm going to be having a guest on a lot. All right, thanks for tuning in, Craig. Thanks for coming on. We'll see you hopefully at your wedding in a couple months.
You got it, buddy.
All right, you still there?
I am.
Okay.